My saying is the only way out is through.
How do I be somebody's wife? What does this even look like?
You need to know walking in the room who you are.
I wanted to know, who is God?
How is this helping, building, or pulling me down?
Today on HerSide, we have a powerfully impactful scholar of a woman, Danai Mararie.
Yes.
Danai Mararie. And she has the Black marriage movement. Guys, I can't even explain to you, like, she is all things relationships. So it is the only reason why, of course, we would have such an incredible person on when we are talking about relationships. It makes sense, right? Commitment is what we're going to focus on. You know, in the month of August, we're focused on keeping your word, keeping your vows, keeping your commitment, since this is our whole anniversary month. And so, Ms. Danai,
yes, ma'am.
Your take on commitment, and why do you think that this current state that we're in right now, our society, our generation, is so commitment averse?
That's such a great question. I really don't think that we are commitment averse. I think that we are fear-based, based on largely what we saw happen before us. So it's our perception, and it's really a misperception of what commitment looks like. So what you'll find, for instance, is that there are more couples in America cohabiting today, living together, non-married, than there are married couples who are living together today. And when you go into the research and you look at why, it's super duper fascinating. It's fear. You listen to the exit interviews and you find out that people are afraid of getting it wrong. They watch their parents have a really bad divorce. They watch their parents stay for the kids. And I always say this, if you're going to stay for the kids, then like fight for love for the kids too. You know, yes. You can enjoy that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so a lot of it is they're afraid of what commitment is. They're afraid of what they've seen. They're afraid of what they've heard. Commitment has a bad rap and a really bad PR campaign going on around it. And unfortunately, you know, the people who are the loudest tend to be the unhappiest, and really happy, committed people don't tend to be, you know, screaming from the, you know what I mean? So a lot of it is just what you hear. So yeah, I would say that's the first thing. The second thing that I would say is that it's really sad that people think that moving in, because a lot of people have no problem today moving in, all the stigmas are gone from that, but they do have the problem making the full commitment. And the reason I say that that's sad is because there are all these stats that show, you know, what you miss when you don't commit. Like if a couple is cohabiting versus a couple that's married, they do not build wealth the way that a married couple does. And I have my own theories on that, because if you've got 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door, then you're never going to truly come together in the way that your marriage is going to be blessed and receive the favor that you need, because you trust each other fully.
Yeah.
Think about it. When you move in together, what are you saying? Let's see how this works. Let's just get in here and, you know, see if we get along, and see if we, you know, can communicate, and see if there's nothing wrong with them. Well, there's going to be something wrong with them. And when you listen to couples who've been committed for a long time and married and in wisdom, and it's really good, they will tell you there's no such thing as compatibility. So if compatibility is what you're looking for, and I don't mean you literally have no compatibility in any area. What I mean is you're going to find areas with couples who are healthy and they fall in love and they are compatible where you disagree, and you're going to have to learn how to move through conflict. And unfortunately, this is a generation that doesn't know how to move through conflict very well. And oftentimes, unfortunately, they view conflict, just the presence of it, as a sign that we're not supposed to be together.
That's actually kind of scary. And
yeah, it is.
When I think of, like, I thought that it was a little bit different. Like when people are moving in with each other, they are saying, let's see, let's see, let's see. However, I've watched several people that have gotten into these cohabiting relationships. But then when they do, let's say 9 years later, they do get married. And then
they're divorced in a year.
I don't understand. But you already experienced
that. Is the other thing that happens. That's so wonderful. I'm glad you said that, because those are 2 more stats I wanted to say. Number 1, if you do cohabitate, you are less likely to ever make it to the altar, which is funny because people think it's the next step to making it to the altar.
Right.
That's the first part. Secondly, if you do make it to the altar, you're like twice as likely for you to divorce. than if you never
I'm
did.
not hearing why.
Now, would you feel like there's like a timeline, like say the longer you cohabitate together, the more you increase the chances, decrease
the chances of it actually working out?
Them getting married.
I don't think it's about the longevity of it. I really think it's about commitment. Okay, so here's the thing. Men, it's so funny, and I say this because just let's generalize here. In general, women are made for commitment. Men are made for commitment too, but women tend to know that and to lean into that.
I agree.
And society oftentimes encourages men to sow their wild oats, and it's more distinguished to be a bachelor, right, George Clooney, versus if you're an older, I'm not going to name any women because I don't want to put them in that just because of the stigma, but no one ever asked what's wrong with George Clooney. And when he was ready, he found someone and he got married. And who he chose happened to be much younger as well, right? But also, women do not have that much time. So, you know what I mean? Like, we have a clock. And the reality is, if you want to be a mom and you want to have a family, you want to raise them with your husband, then there is a clock. And that's not on us. So it's not about pressure. It's just about, you know, do you want that or not? Having said that, commitment is something that men understand in every other area except for relationships. And in fact, I'm going to rephrase that and say, pretend not to understand when it comes to relationships, because when it's time for them to commit, they know exactly what to do and they do it. And an example of that is you will have a man prior to him being in a position in his life where he is ready to date for marriage. I'm being very intentional about those words. So courtship, which has been erased from American dating society to such an extent that if you ask somebody, are you dating them or are you dating, you literally have to clarify what you mean because there are so many different definitions.
Are you talking to her?
Yeah. Are you talking? Are you kicking it? Are y'all friends with benefits?
Yes.
Are y'all like, are you guys together? Well, no, we're together, but not really. Well, do you have a title? Well, no, we don't have a title, but we're together every day and we're sleeping together and we spend the holidays. And I mean, we've met each other's parents, but we're not in a relationship. No, this is perfect. This is perfect. Why is that happening? It's happening because men do not want to commit until they are ready. The problem is men are having relationships that they are renaming as call it whatever you want to do or no, nothing at all, which is why I'm saying titling, because if I call a thing, shout out to Yanla, if I call a thing, then I have to attribute to that thing everything that is owed to that thing. So the moment that I clarify, you are my girlfriend, you are my woman, you are my fiance, we are together, there are automatic responsibilities that come with that. I now cannot miss Valentine's Day without hearing from you. I now cannot not take pictures with you and take pictures with all these other women. I now cannot be just strolling through, social media or not inviting you to the cookout or doing things with you and putting forth the effort that is required in order, hear this, to make an actual relationship work. What I can do, and this is the disturbing part, and I am picking on men a little bit only because of my practice and what they tell me. So I'm not doing this based on personal experience. I'm doing this based on what the men tell me. They, for instance, from, maybe 20 to 30, will have relationships with women, but will not actually give the woman legitimacy, which is the title, which is everything that comes along with those titles, because they don't want to do everything that goes along with those titles because they'll have to work too hard. That's the first part. The second part is, unfortunately, and now I'm going to get on the women, let's balance this out. We live in a society where women are completely over-sexualized. We live in a society where women have burned their bras and they've gone with feminism. And I used to be a feminist and I'm not anymore. And that's a whole other story. And I will teach you all about that on another day. But for me, I found everything I was looking for in feminism, which was equality, value, protection, love, fairness from the opposite sex, and not being mistreated because I was a girl. I found all of that in Christ. So once I found it all in Christ, I was like, oh, I don't need that anymore. And it came without bitterness and what the long-term effects of feminism is. And I will say this as someone who was a feminine scholar when I was in college as well. And that point just has to be made, that whenever you take an ideology, you have to take it to its logical end. Like, if we just follow this out like in its purity, what would be the logical end of this thing? And the logical end of feminism is a bunch of women on an island, because it's anti-man. Man is the root of all evil. Man is the reason why I'm going through everything. Man is he's my enemy. He's the reason why I'm suffering. He's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So
and that's
you
just
actually
not the
feel
truth.
like
no,
feminism is not empowering at all.
I do not. Oh, okay. And let me give you.
Thank you. We just wanted.
Since
I just
we're
wanted to
on-
clear, because
no,
I know we
it
have,
is
you know,
not. And
our women out there that are asking,
it
like,
masks. And so you can't make a statement like that without giving you an example. Let me give you a perfect example of how feminism is kicking women, especially young women's butts, and has men running circles around you. Okay, perfect example. And I'll have clients who will come to me 19 to 25, and this is what they're experiencing. They're dating a guy. They go out with the guy. Let's say they're 25 years old, right? She's working, he's working. They're both educated. Maybe they even met at work, and so they're at the same firm. So maybe they're on the same level, and they know kind of what each other's salaries are or whatever, right? So they know they're in the same realm. So feminism will have her going, men and women are the same. We are not the same. We are of equal value, but we are not the same. We are distinctly different. And if you don't understand the differences, you will pay, and they will make you pay. And this is how. So maybe she likes him. Maybe she decides she wants to shoot her shot because she's a feminist. So he's like, oh, she shot her shot. She's into me. Great. I can relax. I don't have to work so hard. You don't understand that the man is supposed to work hard, and that if he does not work hard in order to get you, he's not going to value you. Why? Men only value what they earn. Okay, so he didn't have to earn your attention. You're shooting your shot. You don't know. You're just socialized to, hey, why not? We're both liberated. We're both in the same, I don't know, on the same level. So you guys make it to the date. You're on the date. You're doing your thing. You've called him. You've planned it. You might have even picked him up. At this point, he's like, you can pay for it too. And the reason he's saying you can pay for it too is because, and he's like, making suggestions. It often is not even coming off this, because I don't want to say that like every guy is not like looking to exploit you. There are great guys out there. Right. But I'm saying this is how you fall into a lot of traps when you do not know better. Romance is not any other relationship. It is about one person pursuing another clearly. And what the lack of commitment, because we're talking about commitment, does is it blurs the lines of who is pursuing who. So feminism blurs the lines of who is pursuing who. Feminism also adds in equality, and we don't know equality dulls romance. So what happens, and it could be, generally like, oh my God, we have like the best of intentions. We were just dating in like an equal egalitarian kind of a way. And so, I felt nothing about picking up the check. Now she's picking up multiple checks. Now she's doing more. Now he's laying back. And people don't understand there is masculinity and there is femininity. And masculinity pursues and femininity receives. And that's not for the sake of fairness. It's as simple as an egg and a sperm. And the egg sits and the sperm swims to it. And it's not just swimming to it. It is fighting off other sperm in order to get to it. That is the work that the sperm has to do just for the privilege of even getting to the egg. So no. It's literally before that.
I want to ask this question, because this thing is really trending right now. The whole 50-50, like bill split.
I know.
Like in households and all of that. So what do you say about that?
So I'm so glad you said that, because I recently had a client who was concerned because initially, so two professionals, two very successful professionals, and they're going to get married. And the fiance asked, would you mind if I did not work? Would you mind if I stayed at home? Would you have a problem with that? And he said to me, he said, here's the reality. Like, there are several things where I'm like, like, I'm not a jerk. I am a provider and I do make good money, but I also don't want to feel like there's a bait and switch going on where the woman that I met was focused and dedicated and ambitious and building a career and was killing it. And then when you meet me, you sit back and go, well, I just don't kind of want to do that anymore. And so this is the beauty of it. This is the beauty of it. I do not lie to people. I said, I'm going to tell you two different things. I'm going to take two different sides of this because there were practical elements too, meaning because of the profession that the woman is in, she had a great deal of student loans, a great deal, but it's justified for the profession, right? So, and she had just opened up an office. And so it was like, okay, well, and I told him, I said, there are two things. The first I'm gonna tell you is the bad news. I like to end on the good news. Bad news for you. There is not a woman on the planet who wants to know that if she had to, she would have to work for the rest of her life. Right. That is not the way that we were made. That is why God did not put that on us. He didn't tell us to till the ground, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's the first part. Bad news, at some point, women do not want to work. We were not made for it. It's a burden we weren't meant to carry. Okay, other part, that doesn't mean we never want to work. Right. And that doesn't mean that it's never appropriate for us to work or that we cannot. So in addition to that, the practicality is we have a huge thing of student loans here. And you have expressed your heart to me, which was, I don't want to feel like there's a bait and switch because the woman that I met and fell in love with was so ambitious. So I said, here's how I would do it. I said, I would say, because we have this huge thing of student loans and we are starting off in a marriage and we did this the right way and we dated the right way. And so we don't have children. And this is like the least responsible we're ever going to have to be. How about this? Can we attack the debt? Especially since, according to U.S. News and World Reports, money is the number one fight that people have, right? So instead of going into our marriage and starting with a chip on my shoulder and a little bit of resentment because I'm like, well, I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable because I'm feeling like everything's on me and that's not how I entered into my relationship with you. How about we both attack the debt? Bring some of that down to where the number is not so scary. And then when it's down here a little bit more and we both worked on it, then I will not mind taking over. And by then, you'll probably be pregnant anyway. And, I don't want my children, I want to stay at home mom. I don't want my children to be nonverbal in someone else's arms and unable to tell me when I ask, baby, how was school today? Oh, my teacher hit me or they pinched me or they locked me in the closet for 30, whatever, right? So point being, he has no problem with her being like a stay-at-home mom during a different season where there's not all of this debt. But for the time being, it's wise for you to get rid of the debt because you guys don't have any other responsibilities and you guys can attack that like a team now. And then you can sit back and rest a little bit later in another season.
But that's communication. Right?
Yeah,
that's a whole level. And we just posted something a few days back where there was a guy, I think it came off of the Steve Harvey show. So it was kind of like just a reposted thing. And it was this lady and she said it with the biggest smile. So she was so like nice about it. She's standing next to her husband and she's like, so can you just help me because I just love my husband with all my heart. We've been married for 11 months now. And before we got married, we dated for 2 years and he brought me everywhere and he took me and did all these things with me and he paid for everything and he wined me and dined me and then we got married. And now he tells me I have to pay for 50% of everything, including my food. And still with a big smile. And she's like, she said, he wants me to pay for 50% of the groceries because he said, well, you're the one that's doing all the cooking. And she's like, well, you're doing 50% of the eating. And she's like, and so, I just feel like I kind of got bait and switched. And so then the husband had a 3-second, little interjection. He goes, Steve, I know it's hard to come back from what you just said because it makes me look crazy, but I just feel like it should be 50-50. We're in this marriage together. She asked me to do the dishes, so I do them. We do them together. Why wouldn't I also get 50-50? And then I read the comments and people were going in. They were like, yeah, she got asked for 50% of all his stuff he made too when they get a divorce. Like, so of course it should be 50-50 from the beginning of marriage to the end.
This is the mentality now. And what you were saying, it goes back for them to even have that mindset to say, okay, we tackle this together. It goes back to, being committed. Having 100%, that commitment to 100%. Even say, you know what, that's your debt.
100.
This is my debt.
That's exactly what it does. That's what the lack of, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. No. But that's exactly what it does is when you do not commit And I was saying originally, men understand what commitment is. And I say that because they have to commit to their team. They have to commit to their job. They have to commit to their paper route. They have to commit. If they're not committed to their team, if they're not committed to practices, if they're not committed to showing up on time, suiting up, off the court, doing what they need to do, they know good and well there will be consequences for that and they will be off the team. So they know that. They understand commitment. But when it comes to women, oftentimes, if they can get away with things, they will try to get away with things. And so here's the thing. Let's talk about both sexes. What happens with a lack of commitment is, and this kind of goes into 50-50, is when the man is not fully committed, he will not take responsibility for the woman in a way that will make her feel covered for, provided for, protected, and cherished, and adored, and safe. Therefore, as a result of that, because he's the leader, she then will become more and more independent, which means you do not have a submissive woman anymore. Absolutely. Which means I am also in self-preservation mode because I'm not safe. I don't know if you're going to take care of me. I don't know if you've got one foot out the door. I don't know why you're not signing the papers or giving me the title or doing whatever. To me, all I know is you aren't sure about me. So if you're not sure about me, I'm not sure about you.
But then we become the problem.
Well, but that's, and think about it, like with all the blessings I was saying, with like shacking up and stuff, that's the reason why those blessings are not there when you're shacking up versus when you're married. When you're married, at least you start off, because I know some people are going to be like, they're married and they're still doing blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that's not everybody. You start off, at least in married, saying, I'm committed and I'm all in, right? Yes. In a shack up, you don't do that. There's no point where you're saying I'm all in. All in would mean let's make this legitimate and legal so that we can protect both of us and not just one of us. Because the reality is whatever we build, we're going to have to fight about, because I don't have a right to if I'm not your wife. That's the reality. And a lot of people find that out in a sad way, once that's over.
Absolutely right. So how can we, as women, from our side, from our perspective, because a lot of times we will look at it like, oh, I'm a committed person, I'm a loyal person. It's always the men that have a hard time committing. You think of the women saying, so where are we? Asking the question to the guy, so what are we exactly?
Which, by the way, I'll teach a whole class on that. If you have to ask what are we, you did it wrong.
There's something wrong.
Wow,
right.
That's good.
So that's what it seems like. It seems like the women are ready for the commitment, at least stereotypically.
Yes.
And the men are, out there doing whatever, trying to do whatever they can to not commit, but still have the commitment rewards, right?
Absolutely.
What can we do as women from our side and our perspective to not have that happen?
I so love that you said that, because now I get to put the responsibility on the women. Because I was, going in on men, let me go in on the women. How do I say this in a diplomatic manner? I can't, so I'm just going to say it. Women, you have all the power, but you don't think it. And you can make a very real case today. You can make a very real case today for the men have all the power. And you would be right. So do I sound like I'm contradicting myself? You would be right because you're giving it to him.
Good.
So the woman is the prize. I proved that with the sperm and the egg. You don't fight for him.
Say that again.
For you.
Say that again.
Is the prize. She sits there as an egg, and he fights and battles and kills off other suitors to try to get to her. So, woman, if you are fighting and battling and killing off other women to get to him, you're not in a powerful position. You're not. And you're the man. Sorry, got to tell you, you're the guy. Okay, so having said that, I was trying to say something diplomatically. The responsibility of the woman is, this is so good. What a great transition. To understand femininity, not feminism, femininity. What were you created for? How did God create you? Where is your true value? And I'm going to tell you right now, alert, alert. It's not in anything they are telling you if you are listening to the world. It is not in anything they told you. So I told you I came out of feminism when I found out who I was in Christ. I fell in love with God because I found out that God was in love with me. Aww. And I found out that he created me perfectly, and that everything that I thought was wrong with me because I was a girl was actually right with me, and it was planned strategically that
Amen.
way.
Love
so
that.
women have
Love
to find out how they were created and how they were made. They have to stop envying men,
That's
especially men who are behaving badly or getting over on them and going, well, how can I even the score and get over on him too? No. What you need to do is decide what you want and then find out the best path to go get it. And so if what you want is to be a wife, you have to present as a wife. You have to show up as a wife. You have to behave as a wife. And wives date differently than, I'll just say, everything else. When you meet a man, he puts you into one of two categories. You are either fun or you are serious. Wives are in the serious category. Where women have all of the power is you get to show up and show him who you are. He will either align with that and fight for you like that sperm because he actually wants to be with you, and that's how you'll know that he is serious. Or he will show you he is not serious, and what he's interested in is a dynamic like the one that you said, where he's got you, but you're an option, while he swims around looking at what all of the other options are. Right. So when he's got you and you're an option and he's swimming around with all of this, what you should do is be swimming around with all of that. Now, let me tell you how to do it, because I'm not talking tit for tat, and I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about, if you know you want to be a wife and a mama, you have a time period of a fertility window. That is the reality. So you cannot allow men to waste your time. So at the point that you realize that this person is doing all of this, you cannot participate on him because you cannot wait for him. What you have to do is practice variety. So you date, and you are, I can't even believe I'm saying this. I didn't learn this in church. I learned it out the church, but it works. Listen, and we're gonna do this in a godly way, and we're gonna do this in an integral way. You have to, in certain ways, do what they're doing. Meaning, you want to get married, you create competition. Why do you create competition? Because men are competitive, conquering, and controlling. And these are not bad things. And I am not saying that they are bad things. I'm saying this is how he is made. Fundamentally, he's different than you, and you need to learn how to understand that. Women, in their feminine, are made passive, patient, and vulnerable. And so that's what you need to do. So you sit like the egg, and you draw men to you by being beautiful, by being, I'm not going to use all the words he says, but by being beautiful, which you all are, by putting yourself together and presenting. So you don't have to be a supermodel, and you don't have to be a certain style of beauty. You do have to put effort into what you wear and presenting yourself like a lady. You cannot wear everything. If you sell sex, men are visual, and they will use you for sex, and they will not be sorry for it. If you sell wife, men are visual, and many who are interested in sex won't even come to you. So don't be discouraged if the amount of men goes down when you change the way that you present yourself, because they respond to what you present. So if you present a wife, they will see a wife. And when they are ready for a wife, they will come looking for a wife. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But you have all the power. The thing not to do, I just have to say what not to do. Too many women today are mothering men. You are dominant. You are masculine. And just hear me for a second and hear me out when I say this. Part of how you are mothering men is with your wombs. You're giving away sex. You're playing free wives. You are moving in. When you do that, full circle, you're giving up all of your power. Now he's in control. Why? Men and women are different. You were created different, equally valuable, totally different in how you bond. When you make love to a man, even if you get into it and he goes, you know what, I'm not ready for a relationship, or let's just have fun, or let's just have sex, or whatever, you can sign up for that. And you'll be in my office 3 months later going, why am I in love with him?
That's
and
right.
He will be saying, I told you I wasn't ready for a relationship, and we agreed this is not going to be anything. So that's why I go back to know who you are, know how God created you, know how your heart was made. Do not make that a bad thing. Do not listen to the socialization of your peers when they say you are catching feelings. Feelings are supposed to be caught. They're just supposed to be caught for your husband in the safety and the union of what is the subject today?
commitment. That was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy because my perspective right now, I have so many questions, and I know we cannot do any of them right now. So this is going to have to be a part two.
Amen.
Part two, for sure.
What does a wife look like? And how do we commit? How do we step into our femininity? That's my big thing, but I have your number, so I get to
Hey,
and that
you
way,
know, I never get tired of talking about that.
let's definitely for sure be able to wrap that and make that something that we can
Absolutely.
do a part two on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Guys, we are in a month to really focus on commitment. Is this something that we can actually do? Sit with ourselves and determine what is holding us back from committing. Be real, be honest. Don't get into relationships or even into, not even just like romantic relationships. Don't commit to a job. Don't tell somebody you're going to show up and you don't.
Come on.
Keep your word, right? So just be aware of that this month during this time frame. When we're talking about commitment, be aware of what you're doing and make some really, really good decisions and good choices.
Come on.
Yes.
I like
what
that.
do they say? Slow no. It's better than a quick yes.
Oh, I like that.
Ooh, I like that.
Thank
Yes, too, because it's honest.
It's honest.
Yeah.
It is. I love
It's
that.
honest.
Because how many people do that? What? Yeah. Let's do lunch. I ain't calling
And they
you.
don't, especially here. We call it Hollywood, but it's not just Hollywood. Okay, we're going to stay focused. You guys stay with us, and we'll continue being really focused on commitment with each other together.
Let's hear from her side. Her side.
When I talk,